in terms of your own development. This doesn't just apply to tabla or any musical arts. The real essence of your own progression is yourself. You need to find that for yourself.
I agree. So, well, you've obviously observed your dad and that sort of absorbed into your own personality and a love for the instruments and just the whole drive and motivation behind it. So what sort of impact did your parents have in you taking up the instruments and really following through with it till today?
I would like to say that they started me off on the path that I've taken. They gave me not just the instrument, but they gave me platforms to see the instrument used, to really understand it, to learn it in detail, and for that I'm endlessly grateful. My parents continue to be very, very active in their endeavors to preserve the art, promote it, and
absolutely.
That's something I'm really proud of them for, and it's created a springboard, I could say, for me to jump off of and completely immerse myself into this art. And this is something that I didn't fully appreciate when I just got into it, when they started me in it. When I told Mama that I would be doing this, she recapped for me this one time when I was like, I don't know, 10, 11, where I came to them and I told them that this isn't for me, and this is what they want me to do, and this is not what I want to do. And they insisted at that point that despite whatever feelings I had about it, I stick with it, and I really do see the fruits of that today. It's something that you really can't wrap your head around as a child. So
absolutely. So at some points in growing up, you felt you had to meet a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
Do you still feel the same way? If Mom and Dad is watching, forgive me with the uncomfortable questions.
Because honestly, the highest expectations anyone has of me come from myself. So because of that, it's I don't feel pressured by them. There's very few people that I feel pressured by.
That's good to know. I mean, because growing up in a family that just supports you externally is different from actually being in a family that also practices the instruments and has a knowledge of music and just knows the whole aesthetics of the art forms and spirituality and religion. It's an entirely different world game. Especially as a child, because you don't want to disappoint at the same time, and you want to really fulfill your own dreams and the goals that you set out to achieve.
Yeah, definitely.
What has been some of the most inspiring moments of being a student? What was your take-home traits from just being a student? Not yet a teacher, but just that whole process of learning.
In terms of traits?
What did you develop in your own personal life from being a student of tabla that you hold valuable today?
I think the most prominent would be discipline. I still fall short in many ways. My father would gladly attest to that. But overall, I would like to think I'm a very controlled person. It's taught me so many things. It's taught me a sense of sensory appeal. Not just in terms of auditory sense, but
absolutely.
At that point, aesthetic has become important to me. The way things are perceived, things should be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you care for, so even not just playing the tabla, but the way the tabla looks, the way you take care of it, it's very important, and that translates into into other things in my life. I like detail, and aside from that, being a student of tabla in particular, it really teaches you how to separate yourself, your sense of self, from what you're doing. Oh, that's kind of difficult to explain.
Yeah.
But
It can be heavy for some people, but you should elaborate.
what I mean to say is, it teaches you that what you're doing, the service, the action that you're fulfilling, is not about you. It's not to do with your own progression. It's you're part of something so much bigger than yourself, and that's immensely humbling.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would agree 100% in any of the disciplines. Is once you identify that, it is like your biggest benefits for life.
Definitely.
So, what are some challenges you faced in learning tabla and being committed to the art form?
You know, that's a question that's been posed to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And you
because
know,
I think before you answer, I think a lot of people who are exposed to the classical art forms, because they don't understand, they believe it's just something simple. And then even if they're a student, they may be facing the same challenges, but on the verge of giving up. So we want to also reach out to those people and let them know that it is okay to, feel these things and experience these things, because it is in these challenges that you experience growth, So what would you say about your own personal experiences?
So in terms of the physical process of learning tabla, I would say it's very labor intensive. It's very
absolutely.
It's very demanding, and there was one point in time when I was trying to learn this one particular technique. For anyone that might be familiar with it, I was trying to get a grip on the idea of gamak on the baya, and for nothing I was able to achieve this modulation of the sound, and I was absolutely convinced that I was simply biologically incapable of executing this. My is different. I really didn't know what to say on it.
Yeah.
So yes, fine, that's what I thought. But later on, after more practice, more training, it came the ability. It came slowly. It came with a lot of
persistence. Yeah.
Sadhana, but it came. And a lot of times we, in this age, we tend to be impatient. The process of learning tabla in the past has always been very long. It's been very, and I would imagine this applies to almost anything that requires immense detail. It takes a lot of time to really develop the skill required to execute things at the level, well, at a decent level, let me say. So, in the time that it takes to get there, we in this age are not accustomed to taking that kind of time to do things. We live in a very fast-paced world where we like things to happen now. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't work like that with music or art or dance or anything of the sort. It's like sitting with a hammer and a chisel and you're staring at this huge mountain face and you're just trying to carve it.
Yeah, and I think the environment is different now. The times are different in that we live in a very demanding, technologically advanced world, and prior to all this that we see existing today, these art forms were breathing on its own, and so much time was dedicated to learning. Yeah. Whereas today you have to balance so many other things just to get through life and stay afloat, and at the same time still pursue your passion, So it's different circumstances, different times.
It's really difficult now compared to, well, I mean, I don't want to diminish the efforts that people would have made in the past. That's all.
Yeah.
It really is a whole different kind of situation now. In the past, when it would have been feasible to close your eyes and say, okay, I'm more than willing and able to make money doing this. It's not like that anymore. You can't just...
And even just to get ahead, like in the art forms itself, you still have to have an academic degree and not in addition to your music or dance or instruments, whatever degree you have in that, they still want some sort of business or law or whatever. They want a balance in getting being hired to even teach or
really?
Any around the world. If you were to so how I studied Bharatanatyam, I could get into teaching at a certain level, but if I have an extra degree or my master's in any other subject area, it doubles my chance of getting hired in regular jobs or even to teach the art form. So it's kind of weird.
The notion that people who have been immersed into the arts don't have proficiencies otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
There's a huge stigma attached to...
Okay.
Yeah. Only know to use the body and not the mind kind of thing. Yeah. So it's interesting that you brought that up. So, but I believe that everybody now, the younger generation now should really have something to fall back on regardless.
Yeah. I really think that's important.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just because you need to, but because it's very encouraging to be versatile and develop yourself in multiple ways. It's something that's invaluable.
Yes, I believe so as well. And there's so much opportunity to learn anything that you want.
Yeah, especially now that we have so much access to technology and online resources that we haven't had in the same form in forever.
Absolutely.
It's a completely novice experience. The excuses that people would have made before, they just don't cut it anymore.
Yeah. So that brings me to one of the questions that was asked in terms of how do you think music has helped you in your academics, and if so, in what way?
Interesting. Well, off the bat, I don't think music has a direct relationship with academics. But what I will say is that it sharpens the mind a lot. Well, learning music blindly is not going to do anything. It doesn't foster any kind of growth in the sense that you're just learning things mechanically. However, if you really apply yourself and start to really, think about things and process them and develop an understanding of it, and you start to do things from a point of strategy and execution and detail, this translates itself into your whole being. And then that could then be applied to your other pursuits, if academics is one of those things. So I would think that was the case for me. Learning tabla, I can't say it gave me any kind of mathematical genius kind of ability. No, that it didn't work like that. But it taught me how to think quickly, how to improvise, how to form methods to understand things, and that helped a lot in any kind of academic pursuit.
That's interesting, and I believe it is really the life lessons that you take from the art more than anything, because it's very separate from a traditional subject that you would study in its entirety. So it's good to know that you've gained that sort of perspective.
Yeah.
In terms of performing, so I know that you're heavily involved with the Sangam. and congratulations to you and your family, your parents in particular, for really dedicating so much time and effort and just that sincerity to propagating the tabla and teaching wholeheartedly. It's not something common, and they do deserve that respect. So being involved with that sort of atmosphere and just the whole experience of teaching, how did that add to your performance ability?
Well, they say if you really want to understand something, you should try to teach it.
Definitely.
Now, that I have first-handedly experienced it to be true. It is definitely true. In order to effectively make someone understand something, it really tests you to know it for yourself. You really need to understand your material inside out.
Mm-hmm.
That helps a great deal. Subtle things. People tend to overlook the importance of theory, I believe. Everyone places importance on maybe
practical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many kaidas, how much mukras you can play in the people budget. But all that becomes, in my mind, it's really secondary to the idea that you need to understand what you're doing. Simple example, if you're playing bhajan teka, din na din din na din na din. So the way tal is structured, it lends itself to the formation of teka. What I mean by that is the way the groups are put together define how they should be played. So let me take Tintal instead. It's structured. So da din din 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 da. This is very different from me trying to do something like da din din da din din da din din da din din da din din.
Yeah.
Right. So that relationship is very important, and that is something that comes only when you really understand your theory. It's not as simple as saying, okay, that's the way it's played. It's not quite that simple. You really need to understand the foundation on which we build these things. And understanding theory, I would say, is the most important part of learning. Because even if you're not a tabla player, even if, let's say you're a Kathak dancer or a musician, you still need to understand tal. You still need to understand time cycle, the way things operate. So this is the material that unites us. This is what brings us together as a performing group.
Definitely. I saw one question that came in. Just ask that before we go along. What has been the reception towards your music in denomination, schools, and at UE?
Okay, so that's an interesting question.
It is.
I think for the most part, young people are very receptive, very, very receptive to classical music and the idea that different types of music are worth listening to.
Mm-hmm.
This is generally what I've observed to be the case. So in schools, you would generally find that students have a lot more keen interest in understanding what is this, where has it come from, what purpose does it serve. Okay, that actually, it might not be my cup of tea, but it's still an admirable, genre. So that is something that I have found extremely, extremely valuable, both when I attended Naparima College and now being at UE. So my experience in both institutions were very different. In Naparima College, we had an Indian cultural club, which I was heavily involved with. And throughout the years, we saw it was one of the biggest clubs in the school. It's a Presbyterian school full of different religious sects and cultural backgrounds and ethnic groups. And yet still, we were able to, in some form or fashion, bring our culture, if not to the forefront in everyone's minds, right? At least they would be aware of it. And that's probably the most important thing that we could do.
Yeah.
And them being at UE, again, it's a whole big collection of people, and now you see people from not just Trinidad, but from different places in the Caribbean, South American countries coming to Trinidad to study it. And here they now experience this instrument, which they've had no idea existed before. And it's really a beautiful thing to experience. It's the idea that something unknown to them can bring them so much joy, and for that thing to belong to you, belong to you.
Yeah.
It's a joy that's kind of incomparable.
Well, what do you think they connected to the most in just that initial introduction to the instrument? What was attractive to them?
Some kind of rudimentary idea of rhythm. They would all have some kind of rudimentary idea of drums. But I think tabla takes it to another level, in the sense that it starts to build on the idea that rhythm and melody can work together. Tabla is not quite so simple as just a rhythm.
Absolutely. It's very intricate. There's so many variables that go into the sound, the production of that sound.
I think that this different dynamic experience, it shows them, just some insight into what this rich musical culture of India is like.
Absolutely. Do you have hopes on visiting?
Oh, well, absolutely. It definitely is something I would like to do.
To even explore tabla, or just to see the country?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That is the goal.
So do you follow a specific gharana of tabla?
No, and there's a reason for that. So when I did it, in my life I've been exposed to a big group of teachers from different backgrounds. Gharana is a very rigid idea. It's a bit complicated in the sense that we wouldn't really understand the system of it. It involved a lot more than just style of playing. It was a whole culture in itself. It was the students would go and live with their teacher, and on a day-to-day basis they would be imbibed with traditions from that gharana, with religious, cultural, all sorts of things. And if we would like to look at gharana from the outside looking in, we really don't get a full picture of what constitutes it. Now, considering that there are a couple different gharanas, and they all have their own appeal, they all have their own system of how they approach tabla, they all have their own beauty. And to say that one is your favorite is kind of, or one is the only one for you is kind of limiting yourself. Especially now that we have access to so much more information than we did before. Before, the way to learn tabla was you stay with your teacher, you learn as much as you can from them for as long as you can, and when you leave their abode, where you would have stayed for X amount of time, you would have become an exponent of their gharana. But we don't operate like that anymore. So to say that you belong to a particular gharana is
absolutely
strange.
Yeah.
But
I think there's so much room and space for learning and exploring.
Yeah.
And I mean, music is so holistic at the end of the day that it's like an ocean, and you're just a droplet, and you want to really reach to the furthest that you can in learning and presenting. So,
and in doing so, you'll open yourself up to so much more. So
I think it's important that you understand the traditions and you respect it, and you not.
Absolutely agree with you.
any rules and regulations and traditions, but you can still explore and just break the or not break the rules, but once you know them, you can then like your own ways of presenting the talents and all these.
That's an important premise.
Yeah.
To break the rules, you need to understand the rules.
Yeah.
No, but you're right, and they say that there will always be some exceptions to any rule. But to really appreciate why those exceptions are allowable, you need to understand the rule in itself. For a long time, I struggled with that idea. I considered myself to be a traditionalist, a purist, someone who believed that the art should not be tampered with, and that if you wanted to learn, that's how you should learn. You should immerse yourself into classical music, and anything you want to do afterwards you could do it. For now, do your classical. But
yeah.
I think that's it. So a lot of people, and tabla, while the classical side of it is important, I think that people have developed a real practical appreciation for it, and it shouldn't be discouraged. It should.
Definitely.
Yeah, it as a matter of fact, I think it should be encouraged, because the more people that develop an appreciation for it, the better.
Yeah,
And
because once you in that attraction, then they ask questions, and it is in these questions that you open up a whole spectrum for learning, and you just give them that opportunity to want to know more. And I think that is important. And especially when you're in cultures outside of India, you have to explore ways and means of connecting to people on a different level in terms of
not familiar with it.
Yeah, what appeals to their taste buds and what they are inclined to enjoying, because an authentic classical recital is quite heavy. It takes some level of intellect to understand all that is going into the concert and the different parts of it and how they would start, and then their main items and then the endings. And
it's a very intensive listening process.
Somebody could be sitting there for an entire 2 hours and not know what is going on. Yeah. I mean, I've been in that. The first, it's like when I was first introduced to a pure Hindustani recital in India, and not only for vocal, but for tabla and basri and sarangi and anything Hindustani. I mean, Carnatic I naturally like, but anything Hindustani, and we would have to sit through all of these for like weeks and weeks and weeks at festivals. And after like 10, 20 minutes, I'm like, what is going on? And I mean, this is like all first year students. Everybody is like, oh my God, this is like classical suicide that we're just sitting through and we don't understand. But after you left off, I mean, once you become a third year student and you understand all these structures behind it and the ragams and how they would select them to put them together with each other to render it in all these different ways, and then how they, like the Manudharam that goes into it, and all these different ways of presentation, then you can gain that appreciation.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, then you'll be like, what? You seriously ask yourself, what am I sitting in?
And I don't blame anybody that hasn't been exposed for not understanding. That's something completely understandable. A couple of years ago, there was an Indian Arrival Day function in Sapa. I was in Form 3, I think. But yeah, so we went to the Indian Arrival Day function to perform actually. And one of the performances, they had guest artists from the Mahatma Gandhi Institute, Srimati Mandakini Swain, and her husband, who was my teacher at the time, Shri Jitendra Swain. They did a classical piece. And I remember, they took a contingent of NAS boys from my form to view the program. And I remember one of them making a comment that she sounded like a goat.
Oh, God.
I mean, I could excuse it because we were children and he didn't understand and he was just trying to make a joke, but it really got me thinking, how many other people think like that, but do say it.
A lot, yeah. A lot.
So that's why I think um, the most important thing that we can do is show people that there is a way that this could be appealing. It may not necessarily be in the format that has been exposed to them in the past that would have turned them off in some way. Mm-hmm. But there's something about it, some way to find some part of it that will appeal. And
exactly.
It's just
and I think it's important to understand and be sensitive to the culture of the audience. Like what is local music, or what are they attracted to? Because together with me, I mean, I was a West Indian foreigner, and I mean, I was having that experience. But then I was also in a batch with South Africans and Russians, and you could see all the foreigners' faces like stunted because they didn't know what was going on for the entire 2 hours. And then even the North Indians. So it was like some of them they were North Indians and still didn't know about Hindustani classical and all the whole 2 hour present.
People within their own
So it is really who is involved and who knows firsthand will know. But then you have to really be sensitive, especially in 2020 when there's so much more things available in terms of art and culture. So you really have to dig deep and understand what will connect to the audience, and how do you preserve these traditions and still connect with an audience.
That's a difficult question.
Yeah.
That's difficult to really balance that well. It takes a tremendous amount of skill.
Definitely. I agree. So we have a famous interviewer who's been asking lots of questions to all the participants. So this question is from Sachin Budram, and he asked, what inspired you to learn singing is his first question. And then his second question is, what is the role of a tabla accompaniment?
Well, I started studying vocal music because I wanted to become a better accompanist. That was the initial goal when I started studying raga. I haven't gotten very far because I've been teaching myself. That is a terrible idea. I don't recommend it to anyone. Please do not try this at home. But yeah, that was my goal when I started studying vocal music, and I gradually fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. The first rag that I really fell in love with was Rag Yaman. And as I started listening to it more and more, I started to understand how relevant this is. Because I never really understood the idea of how ragas were relevant to what we do on a daily basis. And then I started to notice, okay, these bhajans belong to this rag, this it's here, it's all around us. This is everything. So that's really what sparked my initial interest in vocal music. And as for the second question, what is the role of a tabla player as an accompanist? Your role is to be the riverbed that the river flows on. You are there, consistent, always supporting, moving with the river. You don't guide the river shapes you, but you're always there, supporting. That is your role as the accompanist.
That's a beautiful explanation. I think that should definitely answer his question.
Yeah.
We have one question here from the Sangam actually. What tal is your favorite and why?
That's a difficult question. I like different tals for different purposes. I think that's a interesting point. Different tals don't serve the same purposes. So Team tal is a heavily classical rag. It could also be a light rag. A light tal. It can be used for a whole array of different uses, and each case has its own appeal. Dajratal, beautiful for ghazal, beautiful for duns like music. It's so appealing, but it has no place in classical music. So in that way, different tals. It's difficult to say that one is your favorite when they don't mean to serve the same purpose.
Yeah, each has its own sense of beauty.
But for the purpose of classical music, I will say that my favorite is probably Tintal, albeit common, maybe, and perceivably simple. It is my favorite because it feels so natural. It's a progression 4 4 4 4. It's easy for both the performer and the listener to enjoy. Because as you start complicating numbers, you tend to lose people. So it's nice to show off your numerical prowess as an artist. It's great to have that ability. But if it's not connecting with people, then what's the point?
Absolutely.
So that would probably be why I think Tal is so important. Or why it might be considered to be my favorite. Yeah.
Nice. So how much time do you dedicate to tabla? Learning, not teaching. But I guess while you're teaching, you're also learning. So
not as much.
I can refer back, yeah.
Not as much as I should.
But how much do you how would you go about your practice, or in general, even when you're at school, or how do you go about dedicating your time?
That tabla had been for a long period of my life. It was something that was a good vent. It served as an emotional stress reliever, especially when academics become overbearing. During keep, I used to have a pair of tabla right by my desk. So whenever I got fed up, I was like, I just went and stood by the tabla, played for a couple of minutes, and came back. And while that may be, one way to get you to play, I don't think that's the best form of practice. It's good. It's good that you just get to sit and play, but proper practice is really. It takes time, and not that it's laborious. It just takes time.
Yeah.
I can sit behind that. No, I'm afraid to really to allocate time to sit behind the tabla, because from the time I get into a practice session, I can't get out because
it's
so engrossed in what you're doing that it swallows you. You don't notice the time going by.
Absolutely. And when you're performing on platforms or stages, and I'm sure you would accompany your dad a lot, how do you feel? Because now you've grown older from when you initially started playing, and obviously you would have matured in your methods of playing the instruments and just adding your own personal touch. What do you experience now as you've gotten older and you've been exposed to a lot of other performers and other artists, and you gain inspiration from the masters of tabla and different vocalists, and you're so accessible to all these avenues of great exponents of the fields, and just seeing firsthand what quality concerts would be like, or just listening to interviews and workshops on how do you feel now, knowing that you're in this art form and you're propagating it, and you're just allowing your passion to be exposed to an audience? How is that experience?
I feel very small.
Why?
No, because I feel like I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I mean,
yeah, and I mean it's a very humble answer. Yeah.
When I sit to play tabla, it feels like every time I sit to play tabla, it feels like a culmination of so many experiences that have aligned to bring me to be able to deliver what I'm delivering in this moment. And that's something that I value a lot, because for a long time, well, the world of real classical tabla was untapped by me. I lived in a box in the sense that I wasn't aware that there was so much to tabla, and that could possibly be why I would have, gone to my parents at that age and said, this is not for me, this is what you want, this is not what I want. But after that, meeting key individuals in my life, it opened up a whole new perspective for me, in the sense that this is so meaningful, this is so old and worshipped, and for me to be a part of that it feels it is something to be very proud of. Honestly, I feel very proud of that.
That's nice. There's a question here from Rubina. She asked, have you ever dabbled in other percussion instruments? Because now you've grown older from when you initially started playing, and obviously you would have matured in your methods of playing the instruments and just adding your own personal touch. What do you experience now as you've gotten older and you've been exposed to a lot of other performers and other artists, and you gain inspiration from the masters of tabla and different vocalists, and you're so accessible to all these avenues of great exponents of the fields, and just seeing firsthand what quality concerts would be like, or just listening to interviews and workshops on how do you feel now, knowing that you're in this art form and you're propagating it and you're just allowing your passion to be exposed to an audience? How is that experience?
I feel very small.
Why?
No, because I feel like, I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I mean,
yeah, and I mean it's a very humble answer. Yeah.
When I sit to play tabla, it feels like every time I sit to play tabla, it feels like a culmination of so many experiences that have aligned to bring me to be able to deliver what I'm delivering in this moment. And that's something that I value a lot, because for a long time, well, the world of real classical tabla was untapped by me. I lived in a box in the sense that I wasn't aware that there was so much to tabla, and that could possibly be why I would have, gone to my parents at that age and said, this is not for me, this is what you want, this is not what I want. But after that, meeting key individuals in my life, it opened up a whole new perspective for me, in the sense that this is so meaningful, this is so old and worshipped, and for me to be a part of that it feels it is something to be very proud of. Honestly, I feel very proud of that.
That's nice. There's a question here from Rubina. She asked, have you ever dabbled in other percussion instruments, or are there any other instruments that you hope to learn?
Percussion instruments? You mean like dantal? I've tried to, professional dantal players are really talented guys. I have to give them that, because I've tried to do it, and I understand a lot of people have this negative connotations. But you have to understand the placement of things. The dantal is so significant in local music and the progression of our own culture. And that is the place for it. It's beautiful in that sense. It doesn't belong in a classical setting. Nor does tabla belong in that setting. It's completely different things. But no, I haven't really committed myself to really pursue any other percussion instruments. I've come to understand that the djembe is actually quite complex compared to what you might think just hearing people play it. But I can respect it from a distance. I have no intentions of trying to learn it. Tabla is consuming enough in itself.
Absolutely.
It doesn't leave me wanting to try anything else.
What are your thoughts on students exploring their creativity, such as creating their own paltas? Is that the word?
Paltas, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's a good question. So paltas are variations, I could say.
Okay.
Extensions of a root composition. So we have kaida or rela, and building on the kaida and rela, we make paltas from those original compositions, explore their directions, and culminate with tihai.
Okay.
The intention ultimately is to be able to do that impromptu, to be able to sit on the spot and tune out paltas off the top of your head.
Okay.
So if you listen to the great masters play iconic compositions, sometimes you sit and listen to them play in one setting and it's this way, and you hear them play it again and it sounds completely different. So these compositions have so much room for taking different paths, and if the goal is to be able to do that impromptu, it needs to start somewhere. So while yes, it's good to learn these things off, to take them from a teacher, when you're learning kaidas as a student, you'll be given paltas to learn off, and that's how you begin on that journey of starting to understand it. But eventually, to really wrap your mind around it, you need to understand how to make a palta, what is necessary for the palta, and as you do it more, eventually you'll be able to do it on the spots. So that's the first step in that journey.
It probably also gives them motivation to want to reach to that level.
I suppose so.
Do you think when they see you do it, yeah, but do you think they get motivated when they see you and their other teachers as well actually performing and doing it?
I hope so.
Do you think it inspires them to want to create?
No, well, naturally, there are some students who are absolutely in love with it, and experiencing things like that would definitely trigger their passion. And there are other students who struggle with owning this for now. I myself was there at one point, and later they would come into it. So I don't expect everyone to follow the same kind of timeline, but for now, as much exposure as they can have, the better. But yes, definitely, I think it does inspire some of them seeing that.
Just to remind everyone who's looking on, you guys can comment your questions live on the chat as we talk. So if you all want to get know any information or ask Anup anything, you can feel free to comment the questions in the box. So Anup, in terms of maestros and exponents, who are some musicians or tabla players that inspire you?
You want? I can tell me.
There's a long list.
Yeah. But,
Top 5.
Top 5, that's still hard. But, okay, so again, tabla is very multifaceted, and different uses of tabla yield different approaches to playing the tabla. So, classical tabla demands a rigidity that ghazal tabla does not, and bhajan is different altogether. So, depending on the use of the tabla, different artists would have a different kind of command over the instrument. Some extremely brilliant classical tabla players would not be so proficient to play for ghazal, or some ghazal players would not be so able to play for bhajan. It requires a different kind of approach to play. So I would say, for classical tabla, these are in no particular order. I really love the discipline of Ustad Yogesh Samshi. His nikas and his creativity are really inspiring. Pandita Nindo is absolutely brilliant. He has ascended to probably at the absolute top of the food chain in terms of classical tabla. Even if you look back at his older content from when he was younger, absolutely brilliant stuff. Ustad Zakir Hussain, I feel like that's a common answer.
Yeah.
There was this one interview with Pandit Yogesh Samshi. He was asked about, he's actually the Guru Bhai of Ustad Zakir Hussain. He also studied with his father, Ustad Al-Rakha. And he was commenting on his privilege to have been present to observe Zakirji's riyaz, his practice sessions. And he was saying that he watched over time as Zakirji became so proficient that eventually the tabla sitting in front of him became a limitation on his creativity. Wow, that level of mastery, that's incredible. So is that 3? Who else? Community Kakoi. Okay, let's look at the younger generation now, I guess. So one of Pandit Yogesh Samshi's students, Yashwant Vaishnav, he's extremely fast, incredibly fast. Speed that and clarity. Well, clarity is needed even with this speed. It's different from anything else I've ever seen. And probably youngest, Ishan Ghosh. He's younger than me, and so good, so good. Yeah.
That's nice. So if you, go ahead.
No, it's not like relevant. So.
Oh. The reason I asked is so that some of these names, if anyone is looking, they can always research and just to gain information and observe the creativity and just the way that they play. And these people are just phenomenal. And
absolutely. And honestly, as you start to study tabla and you really understand the rigor involved in trying to execute what they execute, you appreciate it so much more. And you start to see how this one plays a composition, this one will play the same composition and it sounds completely different, and you start to appreciate their identities as artists.
Yeah. And I think that's like that's the goal, the ultimate purpose, to really put your own label, and people know your personality through your playing. You have to connect it eventually and mature with it to give it a nice hue.
But definitely that only comes when you've attained a certain level of being able to play the instrument. You have to have a control over the instrument to really start forming an identity of your own.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of time. Like you seriously have to be patient and give yourself the time and give the form the time to really season within your own.
It said that there are no young masters of the Indian arts.
Absolutely. There's another question. Share thoughts on the importance of recitation in the learning process.
Okay, so recitation is an art by itself. It takes practice just to recite. But your recitation should be the first step in learning. Before you're able to play a bowl, you should understand what the bowl is, how it's conceived, and your recitation shapes the way you play. So, drawing back to the example I gave earlier with Tintal, me saying da din din da da din din da da din din da da din din da is much different from me processing it and being able to say da din din da na din din da na din din da din din na da din din da. The way you conceive it in your mind comes out when you speak. So shaping the way you say it subsequently shapes the way you play it. So that's the fundamental importance that I've observed of recitation.
Okay.
It's good to show to the audience that there's a language to this. There's a...
Sorry to interrupt the video. Gonna... Okay, let me just join Anup again. Sorry, the Instagram cuts off after an hour. So yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, so about the idea of recitation, I was saying that it's important to give people the understanding that this is a language in itself. I was listening to a TED talk done by Ishan Ghosh actually, and he was saying that in the same way that we have letters, then you form syllables, words, sentences, and it compounds to become poetry. The same thing happens with tabla. So you have a simple bool, you pair it with another one, ta, da, ti, da, and then it becomes da, ti, ti, da, ti, ti, da, ti, ti, da, da, ti, ti, and then eventually you end up with poetry. Da, ti, ti, da, ti, ti, da, da, ti, ti, da, ti, ti, na, ki, na, da, ti, ti, da, ti, ti, da, da, ti, ti, da, ki, ti, na, ki, na, da, ti, ti, da. It builds and it becomes... It could describe real world occurrences just like any other language. And there are many compositions that show this.
There's another question. Share any benefits of being a student of music that you have personally experienced. I think that goes back to some of the things we were mentioning earlier.
Yeah. Well, just to say again, discipline, humility, sharpness of the mind with improvisation, all these things, they're sharpened by musical study.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap up our conversation, we've learned so much, and I'm so happy that we've had this interview with you. But what do you personally think that you can contribute in terms of tabla to our country, or just our culture that is so diverse and can be just lacking a little bit in terms of exposure to the different art forms in their in a raw sense?
Yeah.
So,
well, this is something I've pondered a lot actually. I've come to the point of acceptance that we I feel like locally our people have become so set in their ways that until we become recognized internationally, maybe for our achievements, then it might shine a limelight on what we've achieved to the people of Trinidad. So I've accepted that this is the case and we can't do anything about that. So hopefully at some point we will draw the international eye to Trinidad as a hub for young, passionate, upcoming artists. And at that point, maybe we will start to sway the notions that people have of classical music locally. As far as my personal contribution to it, I have no clue. I have no plan as of yet. For now, my only goal is to continue my personal study and improve as much as I can to maybe put Trinidad on the map of Indian classical music internationally.
Do you hope to collaborate with Dan?
Absolutely, for sure. I have in the past. I've been privileged to have gotten the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, I know you've worked with Kathak, right?
Yes.
How was that experience?
It's amazing. Kathak and tabla, they
marry each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost as though they were made together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it went through the same historical evolution, and they lent themselves to each other in terms of how they emerged and existed. So it goes. It's like a right hand and left hand. Two hands need to clap. It's just different means of expressions. One is, attend to the ears, and one is a very visual representation.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Kathak, it becomes the means by which we can appreciate the forms that the bowls of tabla take. Mm-hmm. They may seem very abstract when we play them, but as a Kathak dancer would interpret them and visualize for the audience, there are two gears in a mechanical system. They just work together. Yeah. It's really interesting.
So Sachin asks again, what does the baya mean to you?
The baya, okay. So the baya is the bass drum.
The bass, yeah.
Yeah. The bass drum is probably generally overlooked in the sense that it's not as, for the most part, it can be very technical, but for the most part, it's not as strenuous in terms of learning as the daya, the right hand. And in that, it becomes neglected. But ultimately, the bass drum provides the real soul of anything that you're playing, because the modulation of the bass gives a depth to the music. It gives depth to any composition that you're playing. So if you have this right hand extremely fast, extremely crisp, just playing notes of different permutations at mind-boggling speeds, and you just have this dead boop, boop, boop going along with it. It's not going to be appealing. This is why. So
definitely.
They work hand in hand. Literally.
He also asks, what does beautifying Tika mean to you?
Beautifying Tika.
It's a Tika, sorry. My bad. South Indian hair is.
Tika is the set of bowls that allow a tal to take form. Mm-hmm. So Kehrawa tal, I would say that it's primarily to do with numerical structure, not necessarily the bowls. So the Teka is where that comes to play. Teka is what we play 95% of the time as a tabla player. Having a beautiful Teka is important, because if you're playing Teka 95% of the time and it's rough or unrefined, it's not going to be pleasant to listen to for an extended period of time. So again, this is a point where we start to see people form their own, approach to take-up, their own approach to playing. And this is really what defines a good tabla player, I would say. Because it shows me how much you value your own input. And what I mean by that is, if you observe that a tabla player is playing and their teka is very full, very, it's like there's no room to listen to everything else. The tabla is just so full of bowls that it commands, it overpowers. That speaks a lot to your intention as a tabla player, which is not placed right if that is the case. As I said before, the role of the accompanist is supporting. And if you're playing teka, it should be very subtle, should be very pleasant to listen to, and it should be played with respect to talent.
Brilliant. He asks, what is one of your favorite tukra or paran?
That's a difficult. I don't think I have a favorite one. Honestly, tukras, parans, fixed compositions of the nature have not been my focus, really, in my pursuit of studying classical music. And while I do love them, and they're very beautiful, the dexterity needed to play them, it comes by practicing compositions that you have to develop skill with, like Kaida, Reda, these kinds of things. They form your ability to then to play fixed compositions like tukras and parans. And I don't think I've achieved the necessary dexterity to move on to that type of composition yet.
Well, we know you'll get there soon. And last Sachin question is, which subgenre of Shastriya Sangeet does your style align most with?
Interesting. Perhaps guts for instrumental music. Interestingly enough, Sachin. Because the reason being, with vocal music, it tends to be very tight. There's a lot less room for the tabla player to interject and really give insight into their playing, which is fine. I understand the need for that, but it isn't my favorite style because it doesn't allow much freedom. With instrumental music, there's a little bit more freedom. You get to really show how the beauty in your approach to teka. There's more opportunity for you to interject and play compositions in interludes, that kind of thing. So that's probably why I would say that.
That's nice. So I think that about... Oh wait, we have some other questions. But there's a comment from the Sangam that I just want to share, and I'm so grateful for them for joining us. Thank you all so much for the support at all times and for all initiatives. They say, on behalf of everyone at Tabla Sangam, we love you, Anup. Thank you for all the hard work you have put into Tabla, and thank you for the inspiration.
My pleasure. I love you guys.
Ryan asks, what is your preferred gharana and why?
That's a difficult question. Because I can't say I prefer one.
Well, obviously you would have touched on it earlier, but you could probably explain why you don't.
I prefer one. All of them have their own beauty and their own type of appeal. Different types of Absolutely right.
Okay, so I think that